Hello listeners, this is James. Welcome to the very first What Editors Want podcast episode, where I talk to writers and editors about the writing game. For the first episode I spoke to Lola Akinmade, a well-renowned travel writer, travel author, entrepreneur and now writing coach. So let's get on with it. Lola Akinmade, it's great to see you and talk to you after many, many years of professional interactions. Me as your commissioning editor at CNN, I think, was when we started, and you as a writer and photographer. Thank you for taking a bit of time to answer my a quick run through of questions here about your life as a freelance. Well, I mean, let me just bring up your resume here, because it's when I think of people who have achieved all there is to achieve in kind of freelance writing, particularly travel writing, I always think of you, because there's very little you haven't done. You think of people who have kind of climbed the 14 highest mountains in the world as being record breakers. You've kind of written for the 14 most prestigious magazines and more in the journalism, freelance writing, travel writing world. Let me just quickly run through your CV, and correct me when you start speaking if I get any of this wrong, but you are a photographer, you're a writer, you're an author, you are the founder of a startup, or probably not a startup anymore, but a travel consultancy called Geographic Media. I mean, what is impressive to me, of course, is the names of the outlets you've written for and provided photographs for: National Geographic, BBC, CNN, The Guardian, Travel and Leisure, Slate, Travel Channel, Lonely Planet, Forbes, Photos, Afar, National Geographic Channel, Adventure Magazine, several in-flight magazines, the New York Times, amongst others. So my first question is obviously going to be very, very difficult for you, but I want to know, of all these accolades that you have, of all these achievements, and I know you've won many awards as well for your work, is there one or two or three, I'm feeling generous, that kind of stick out in your mind and that you think, because let's face it, when people think of a really successful travel writer, your resume is it. That is kind of the finish line for a lot of people. What is it for you, having achieved all these things, that really kind of you think you will look back on in the future and think, yeah, that was really good. I was proud of that. I worked hard, or whatever kind of criteria you have yourself as success.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. And I think, the one criteria for success is showing up authentically with your own voice. And I think that's what has really helped me, as well through the years, is being audacious. How I got into those publications was just being audacious. What's the worst that could happen? They just ignore your email, right? But what's the best that could happen? They actually say, this is a good story idea. So being audacious and showing up with your true voice, it's the road is long, but that's what I am grateful for, is looking back and saying I didn't compromise who I was all through that, my career. So.
Okay, well, you've kind of answered my next question then, which was, what skills or qualities do you have that you think have contributed most significantly to your successes and wins to date? So it sounds like being brave, being bold. For me, being persistent is a big one as well. Not kind of quitting when a lot of people might turn their back and walk out the door again. So
no, absolutely. I think for me, I'm actually a problem solver. So I always approach everything as, what can I do that can make things easier for the person I'm trying to work with, right? And that's why being a photographer and a writer together has actually helped a lot of editors, because it makes their work easier, right? And so for me, being a problem solver has helped me also as an entrepreneur, going into different industries and figuring out, okay, what's the problem that my skill sets can help, solve. So being a problem solver as well, that mindset.
It's a really good point, but it is a very kind of a rare quality, I think, having somebody who can both write and take photos in one package. I remember I loved getting pictures from one particular writer when I was editing at CNN Travel, because she always brought her boyfriend into the mix, who was a photographer. And so you'd get this double whammy package of great writing and great photos. And if you can provide that, yeah, it's an excellent point. That really is a win for editors. And obviously helps with the pitch, which is going to be my next question. It's something I have dealt with a lot. It's something I've advised people on a lot. I know it's something that you have analyzed a lot, because it's a really tough gig as a freelancer, having to pitch for every kind of paycheck that you want, only winning a very small percentage of those. But I remember reading, this was a few years ago now, but on your blog, you used to kind of annually analyze your pitches, which succeeded, which didn't get any responses, which failed miserably. And I think even through those analyses, you would come away with a 30 to 40% win rate. You know, you would pitch cold, and 40% of the time, the editor would actually would say, yes, I want that story. So how did you achieve that? What were you doing when you pitched, do you think, that really kind of got editors to take the bait?
No, absolutely. So I did this for 10 years. So from 2008 to 2018, where I publicly shared pretty much my journey as a freelancer, including pie charts of, acceptances, rejections. And what I was doing was analyzing the feedback I was getting from the editors, and I was able to then course correct the next year. So was I being late? Pitching when something had already happened? Was I being sloppy in my pitches? And then I could actually track when the industry was going through changes, when editors were leaving publications and budgets were being cut. So for me, that self-assessment was also what helped. And I think a lot of creatives they're afraid of taking critique, or rejection. But being able to do that and properly self-assess is what's going to help you see where you need to grow and evolve in your career.
Mm-hmm. So just to kind of go back to that initial idea, was there something particular you think you were doing that helps editors say yes to you, beyond simply analyzing all the pitches you'd done, or was it just kind of luck of the draw? Right?
I was learning from their feedback, and I started getting very targeted and specific and really niched, knowing what departments, what they were looking for their editorial calendars, and then sending a really short, tight pitch. They don't care who I am. So I don't have to start with, I am this, how are you doing, la, la, la. Just go straight, with just that hook, the first line, so they get a sense of your style of writing, they get a sense of your intensity, and then tell them, in a few lines why you are the best person to write that piece. And then you can introduce your accolades. So really making it very easy for the editor to say yes.
Mm. Do you think it was your idea then in these pitches that was the most important point, or do you think having those accolades, like I said, I reeled off about 20 different publications there that are kind of the best publications in the business. How much does that kind of help your idea, and how much is the idea the more important thing?
The idea is the more important thing, because my very first kind of big publication was BBC, and I had no experience, nothing, right? But I was able to pitch a photo essay to them because it was a really targeted, great story idea. So being able to tell a story, that's the important thing. You have to be a storyteller. Why should I care about your story, right? Why should I care about this story? When you deliver that story, then the accolades are just, oh, by the way. Even if you don't have any accolades, you can put a link to your blog with a sample of your writing. But honestly, it's the idea.
And do you remember what that idea was for your first idea with the BBC? And did you include photos in your pitch to give them a taste?
Yes. Right. So that was it. I had no other accolades, but I had a link to a photo gallery, and it was about women fishmongers, so the women that were selling to the customers at the jetty when the fishermen brought the fish in. And so it was a really kind of vibrant essay, and seeing, the women handling and then scaling the fish. And there was a picture of a woman holding a monitor lizard, posing. She had caught that money. So the story, pitching it and showing just how vibrant these women were, the story idea was what hooked the editor, plus the photos to back it up. And I didn't have any, publication credits then. So honestly, it is the story idea. It is the quality of your work. It is pitching with a surety of voice, so that they know that, yes, you know what you're talking about. You are the writer to write this. And it always goes back to make sure you are focusing on what you're passionate about, because it comes true. I'm not a surfer. I don't surf. So I'm not going to go be pitching about surfing, right? But I love culture and tradition, and that is going to come true in my pitch when the editor reads it.
Great. So that's the good stuff. My next question is going to be, have you ever looked back, or do you ever look back and cringe with embarrassment over a piece of work or a pitch or interaction with an editor because of your, I know we spoke before we started the interview that we don't have regrets, but I'm sure we all have little moments where we kind of go, oh gosh, I wish I hadn't done that. Do you have any that you can kind of think of right now? And what was it that made you ashamed, and how would you change it now?
Yes, no, absolutely. And that was due to being lazy and not doing my research. I pitched something on the Faroe Islands to a publication, and then the editor just wrote one line back, "It's in our current issue."
Oh dear.
Which means I didn't even open up the current issue to see what. So that was terrible. But but that editor came back, and then I was able to work with him later on something else. But that was very embarrassing because it was just came back with one line, pick up the magazine, it's there.
Well, you know what? Yeah, that is embarrassing, and I'm sure a lot of editors get a lot of that every time. But at least it showed that you were on the right track with the kinds of things they wanted to publish, right? Yes. So that probably was lodged into his brain for doing future work with you. Yeah, good stuff. Have you always been freelance and kind of an independent contractor? And if so, what do you love about it? What do you really not like about it so much?
All right. So before I actually was freelance, I used to be a programmer. So I used to work as a programmer and then freelance on the side until I felt confident enough to go freelance 100%. And then I freelanced for a couple of years until I started expanding kind of the work I want to do, right? So that's why I'm doing I'm an entrepreneur and do different things, because somebody told me that to earn an income as a freelancer, you have to be awake. But to earn income as an entrepreneur, you can still be sleeping and earning income. And I started thinking about that, about chasing invoices, about, being so dependent, on this one assignment, second assignment. So I started moving away from freelancing as the core of my income. So I still freelance once in a while, but it's gratefully about subjects I really want to write about, or opinion pieces within travel or for New York Times, or things that I'm like, you know what, I need to write about this, and then I pitch it.
That's a nice position to be in, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of a luxury, I guess.
It's hard work. Hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were freelancing, what was the best pay rate you ever received, from which publication, and for what work? And what was the worst?
Yeah, so the best was from Korean Air. Actually, a lot of the in-flights actually pay a lot back. I don't know about, post-COVID, but before COVID, they actually had bigger budgets. I did a lot of feature photography and even shot one of the covers for Korean Air and wrote some of those feature stories. So they were the best paying. And that's because I also developed a great working relationship with the editor. So if he needed last minute, like, oh my goodness, I need to send somebody there, I'm like, you got it. I'm going to make your life easier. Right?
So that was for photography though, rather than writing.
Writing.
Both together. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So that's like double, triple the income, right? Because you
right.
So that's the major advantage. The worst, I'm not going to name names, but they tend to be UK newspapers.
Really? Okay, that doesn't surprise me.
But I'm not going to name names, but a lot of the bigger brands actually pay a lot less because they feel like the brand name alone is going to boost your resume, which, in a sense it does, but so they can get away with paying so much less. So a lot of the freelancers you see now, they usually do freelancing for other kind of non-travel publications, and then the travel publications is just more for the accolades and to add it to the resume. That's usually not the bulk, of the income.
it's kind of interesting because with names on your resume like the New York Times, National Geographic, some of the biggest names in the industry, you might think they would have some of the biggest paychecks as well. But it's actually not. Then you're saying it's actually the kind of the companies and the businesses who you were helping to kind of sell their business that were willing to pay most for it.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. Right. And I think most travel writers, many of them copyright or work with corporate clients. They might be a travel slant. I mean, one of my biggest travel assignments, I had to write a travel guide, but it was for like a big, beverage brand. It wasn't a travel, but it was a travel guide to Stockholm for that beverage brand, and they paid well. So sometimes it's about being creative in the way you want to tell those travel stories and finding the right editorial partners. They could be more commercial. So.
Sure. Okay, and so with all this experience behind you, you've now set up the Geo Traveler Academy. I don't know a huge amount about it, so tell us about it. What are kind of the one or two key things that a member or a signer-upper of this academy might take away from them once they've completed?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got lots of free courses and a few paid courses, and I've just launched my photo experiences for next year, where I'm going to do in-country photography workshops in Mongolia and Croatia. And so the goal of this academy is to kind of share my own style of storytelling, try and put the art back into storytelling that's just not super social media heavy. So I've got a course on how to become a better storyteller. I've got 2 free ones, A to Z of pitching, how to find your niche. So those kind of things that would help a beginning writer, even mid-career writer to strengthen their craft. So
this is all for wannabe travel writers or existing travel writers.
Yes, but also even people that are interested in storytelling. It doesn't have to be, precisely travel, but there is a big travel element.
And where do we find out? Is it geotraveler.com or what's the URL?
So geotravelermedia.com and
geotravelermedia.com. Okay. Head there, guys. Lola is one of the best in the business. You'll be learning from somebody who's climbed all the mountains, done that, got the T-shirt, and is willing to share her love and passion and everything she knows. So, Lola, thanks so much. Great to be talking to you.
Thank you so much.